What is going on, y'all? I'm KM Best. I'm going to be taking a look at your hot takes. Thanos has been perfectly balanced since April and should always be a popular competitive deck. He is healthy for the meta. I think Thanos is not necessarily unhealthy, but also not necessarily balanced. He's the kind of deck that promotes a lot of sort of awkward gameplay scenarios, I would say. Like, one of the things that really sticks out about the best Thanos list recently is they tend to be like Professor X scam lists. And that seems to be the kind of thing that if I were a game designer, would not want to be a dominant competitive strategy all the time. And I think the way the player base has sort of learned that, Thanos, Time Stone, Profex, extremely powerful thing to be doing. I don't think that's something you could put back in the bottle. I don't think that's gonna not be a part of every Thanos deck in the future. I think that's just gonna be how it is for the archetype going forward, and that means that they probably do want to tone it down a little. I do think they probably took a really big swing taking the draw off of Soulstone, because Thanos seems to be rolling downhill so consistently that when it doesn't have the ability to roll downhill, it just ends up being kind of unplayable. And I do think that, it is interesting that the delta, it seems, between Thanos being really good and Thanos being kind of unplayable is just that. But I also think, for example, it's just a bad deck to play into Loki right now. Just Loki existing might be good enough reason to not play Thanos much anymore. And, I don't necessarily think they needed to take the draw off of Soulstone, but I get why they would want to do it. The overall implementation of the infinite leaderboard is fine, and there weren't really other ways they could have done it. Maybe implement MMR normalization, but it wouldn't change how grindy the leaderboard would be. I actually think that's not true. I think there probably were other ways they could have done it, and they could have made it less grindy. All they would have had to do is raise the amount you could gain from a game, right? That is kind of the only issue I really have with the leaderboard right now, other than the sort of unequal start kind of thing, which I think is a lot less of an issue the longer it goes on, right? You look at someone like Dara, or you look at someone like Dexter, who have climbed to where they deserve to be very quickly. And granted, they play a lot of Marvel Snap, but most people are going to end up where they deserve to be, sort of regardless of where they start. That said, I do think it's super frustrating that people started just so far ahead. And I know I'm one of those people to a lot of people, but I've been having a 66, 67 to 70% win rate over the last, God knows how many games of Marvel Snap. And normally, if you start at 50 and you do that for as many games as I have, you're going to end up at rank 1, but I can't get to rank 1 because there are people who just started higher than I've gotten to. And so I think just generally doing more MMR normalization. A lot of people suggest start everyone at the same thing. I think that's just sort of a recipe for bad matchmaking, because if you start everyone at the same SP or MMR or what have you, what'll happen is a bunch of good players are going to queue into a bunch of bad ones, and they're going to feed off of the MMR that they get off of that, right? I think right now, especially since matchmaking is uncapped in Infinite, where you can queue into pool 1 and pool 2 gamers, I would try not to do that. But I think just sort of fundamentally making it so the gap between rank 1 and rank 14 is not 1,000 points and is instead 100 points would probably go a long way. Art germ variants are overrated. I agree with this take. I am someone who generally prefers a little bit of stylization in what I'm doing, and Art germ is unbelievably talented. When you look at what he's able to create, it's incredibly talented, undeniably. It's just not my style. I prefer someone who's gonna do a little bit more just weird stuff, make it more, I guess, visually striking. I don't want to see what a comic book character would look like in real life. I want to see, use the medium to do things that can't happen in real life. But I totally understand people that are just super into just, I want my realistic arrow artwork or whatever. Go nuts. It's just not my bag. Snap discourse is more toxic than any other CCG because of how the game tricks many players into thinking they're better than they really are, with things like bots. Woohoo! This is a doozy. Okay, so for those who are unaware, there are bots in Marvel Snap. For the longest time, the only thing you could play when you were high MMR was like bots and then the same 5 people. Whenever I get a chance, with limited as they are, to use the Marvel Snap creative program to talk to the devs, at that point in time, the number one thing I would bring up every time was, hey, can you get rid of the bots? They announced there was going to be no bots in Conquest, and then there were bots in Conquest. So I think there's a lot of, bot-based discourse. I will say, since the Infinite Ladder came out, I have never played a bot that I'm aware of in Infinite. But the climb to Infinite is almost, not like almost entirely, but like significantly large amount of bots there. And I think that's like such an odd thing to have in your game. I don't really understand the need for it, because like we see how many players are in Infinite, which means there's probably a ton of players who are not in Infinite. So how can this possibly be a matchmaking concern? Like we've seen like I don't know how many players are in Infinite exactly, but it's in the tens of thousands like halfway through the season. And that makes me feel like there can't possibly be matchmaking concerns for this. If you could just, if Infinite matchmaking works, why can't I just play those people all the time? I don't really understand the purpose for bots other than to trick people into thinking that they're good at the game. Like, I especially early when there's like a lot of bot matches before you're smart enough to recognize them. A lot of the early games you play in Marvel Snap are against bots. And I think that's like an extended tutorial thing, but I guess I just don't understand. I used to think it was a matchmaking issue and it would be fine once they got rid of them after Infinite. But now I feel like I don't know why they were there in the first place. Like with everything I've seen about like how much money this game makes and how many people are playing this game, I find it hard to believe they needed them. And it's definitely like put that in a bit of a bad light for me, where I used to think, okay, you know what? It's fine. They'll fix it eventually. But now they have to do it for fast matchmaking. And they did fix it eventually, kind of. But now I don't know if they had to do it in the first place. Content creators are extremely disingenuous about changes. Everything they say is spun positive until the entirety of the community says otherwise, and then SD makes a change. It's clearly to stay in SD's favor and get more opportunities, but regardless, I can't trust a word from them. I think about stuff like this a lot, honestly, because like a lot of my patch reaction videos are that, right? They are me being like, yo, I'm really excited about what the changes to Marvel Snap are. And I kind of wonder if the part of the reason I'm really excited is just because like there are changes that fast. Like I've played a lot of other games, and a lot of other games, the changes don't happen that fast. And you have to sit there and suffer through, Brood Abs or Collector with the 2 power or whatever it is for months. And so when I see the game being changed as fast as it is, I'm always excited because it always means something I don't like is usually going out the window. And I wonder if that contributes to that perception, because like I said, a lot of my patch videos are like, holy crap, this is awesome. But I wonder if maybe I need to be using like a more critical eye. And I just think it's very hard for me to see the future, right? So it's hard for me to get past, all right, I'm excited that they're changing thing A, thing B, and thing C. I do think their balance has been mostly on point running right up to this season. And I also think that it's just so nice to actually have things being responded to that quickly. But I don't necessarily agree with I'll be honest, I don't watch a ton of other Marvel Snap content. Like, I am very busy creating my own Marvel Snap content. I watch a lot of streams, but I don't watch a lot of YouTube. So maybe there's like this whole genre that I'm not familiar with. But I choose to take this as something that I can work on and improve. I just think the issue that I have is I feel like it'd be very hard for me. Like when you say the community complains after the changes, right? I think that's a lot easier to do because you've already experienced the changes. And I feel like normally things the community complain about after the changes that end up being bad are also things that I complain about after the changes that end up being bad. Like it's hard for me to know how good a card is before playing with it. I thought Loki was going to be mid. I was wrong as hell, right? And so once something happens, it's a lot easier to tell how good it is. I know that sounds so weird. But I guess I'll try to look into seeing if I can be a little more critical of changes. Like, I don't want people to not trust me or to think I'm a shill. I get 2,000 gold a month from Second Dinner. But I mean, I've made videos that are like, you should not buy this crap before. And they don't really seem to mind. I don't really think I'd lose any spots in their rankings or anything like that for this. So I feel pretty comfortable just saying what I actually think. And I think most of the time, what I think is usually so overwhelmed by the positivity of, holy crap, we're getting a change to this after like 2 weeks. That's awesome. That maybe it's possible that I miss some of the deeper implications. Or maybe it's just, you know, hard to see those implications when you're only theory crafting. Either way, it's something to think about. Creators, pro and con Loki nerf, need to chill and stop farming. I can't believe so-and-so said this posts. It's fine to chat about power level or if it's too much or beatable. It's not okay to farm shit by dragging other people down. Agreed. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for submitting your hot takes for this video. I really appreciate it. Even if some of them dunked on me a little bit, that is the life that I have chosen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have been KM Best. I will see you in the next one. What was your favorite take in this video? And do you think I got any of them wrong? Let me know in the comments. Have a good one.